Late last night, a lot of different stories burst onto MMA fans like fireworks, and they all sound almost too wild to be true. First, another phone call between Jon Jones and the police slipped onto the internet, giving us a fresh, unfiltered peek into the champ's chaotic private life. Second, Dustin Poirier cheerfully admitted he wants to hop on a full-blown steroid plan once he hangs up the gloves, promising he'll look like a cartoon superhero instead of a lightweight contender. Then the newly crowned pound-for-pound king Ilia Topuria couldn't resist firing shots at anyone who doubts him, laughing at rumors, dunking on rivals, and calling one opponent the easiest fight in the division. Daniel Cormier tripping over his own words and much more, so let's not waste any more time and dive right in. Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway will headline UFC 318 for the BMF belt later this month, and the build-up feels like a time machine.
This will be the last time I'm ever 155 pounds in my life. I can promise you that.
Are we still gonna be in shape, or are we just going straight diabetes?
Listen, I'm getting on steroids. Once USADA stops knocking on my door and I lay the gloves down, I'm getting jacked and tan.
Poirier remembers when he first fought Holloway back in 2012 and snagged a submission in round 1. He also recalls losing to Conor McGregor by TKO in 2014 and thinking, this guy isn't who he says he is. Watching McGregor rocket to stardom proved him wrong, and Holloway's own rise to champion shocked him too. Now, a full decade later, all three men have become megastars. Poirier explained that when you worry about takedowns, like Jack Della Maddalena soon might against Islam Makhachev, your boxing changes because your feet stop planting. He predicts the first 2 rounds will reveal if Islam can drag Jack to the ground or if Jack's size and striking wear Islam down. Poirier's honest flashbacks and careful breakdown show how much the fight game can spin your expectations on their head and why small adjustments decide who wears gold. Mauricio Ruffy has taken on a national mission: avenge Charles Oliveira and hunt down Ilia Topuria. Ruffy says Brazilian fans gave him this task, and he's carrying it like a flag over his shoulder. He plans 1 or 2 more fights to climb the ladder, then aims straight at whoever holds the belt, likely Topuria. He made sure to write Topuria's name in permanent ink, telling him, "Enjoy your moment, because after my next wins, our paths cross in the cage." Ruffy's promise is bold but simple. It isn't just sport, it's revenge wrapped in patriotism. By spelling out a clear timeline and naming his target, he created a storyline fans won't forget, especially in Brazil, where loyalty to Oliveira runs deep. That sense of duty could push Ruffy harder in training camps and make crowds roar louder on fight night. If Topuria keeps the belt, their meeting could add another layer of international drama to a division already bursting with contenders.
After last night's performance, Mauricio Ruffy had some words to say on Twitter, on X, for Ilia Topuria. Make the most of this moment, Topuria. I will definitely put you to sleep.
Belal Muhammad threw gasoline on his rivalry with Kamaru Usman by claiming he made the former welterweight king cry on an episode of Usman's Pound for Pound podcast. An episode that mysteriously vanished from the cloud. Belal insists real tears rolled down Usman's face before someone scrubbed the file like a stained mat. He figures the UFC might use that lost footage later, the same way they replayed the Conor McGregor bus incident to hype a fight. Belal believes Usman can't face the idea that his best days are behind him, calling him delusional for chasing easier matchups. According to Belal, Usman won't out-wrestle, out-strike, or out-cardio him, and that's why the bout hasn't been booked. He paints their potential clash as the perfect storm of competitiveness, personal history, and hidden media, that missing tape becoming a legend all its own. If the UFC ever greenlights this matchup, fans will tune in not just for punches, but for proof that those tears really fell.
It's also a pretty big fight, former champ for former champ, a lot of backstory. Is that something you would entertain if the UFC, came to you about it?
Who is it?
Belal Muhammad.
Who is it?
Former welterweight champion Belal Muhammad.
Next.
Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez knocked Jack Hermanson out cold at UFC 317, then landed a hammer fist while Hermanson was already out. Backlash poured in, calling the extra strike unnecessary. Former fighter Paul Felder jumped to Rodriguez's defense, saying that in the cage your mind flips into survival mode. You're trained to keep punching until the referee stops you. Felder shared his own moment. After flooring Danny Castillo with a spinning back fist, he hammered him once more because he couldn't risk Castillo popping back up. Felder's story helps viewers understand the razor-thin line fighters walk between sportsmanship and instinct. In those split seconds, you don't see a motionless body. You see a threat that could jolt awake. Critics may type angry comments later, but inside the octagon, hesitation can cost victory or safety. That doesn't erase the ugly snapshot of an unconscious Hermanson eating another shot, yet Felder's words remind us brutality and caution are tangled in every knockout finish.
When you go inside the cage, we sign the contract, we're able to everything. Because if he was on the other side and he did the same, why are you gonna be mad with him or something like that, man? He did his job. But I hope he's okay. He a warrior like me. But that, like you said, man, I'm not gonna stop till the ref said he stopped.
Joe Pyfer is baffled that he's 5-1 in the UFC, yet still outside the top 15 middleweight rankings. After beating veteran Kelvin Gastelum by decision, Pyfer expected a number next to his name. Instead, he watches fighters with fewer wins, like others sitting at 3-2, hold ranked spots. Pyfer says he'll fight again in September or October, location depending, and he isn't picky about opponents. Any ranked name will do. He also admits that wanting something in the UFC doesn't make it happen. You get who you're given. Still, he finds it wild that a victory over Gastelum, who entered the Hall of Fame for his war with Israel Adesanya, didn't move him up. His frustration taps into a common fighter feeling. Rankings shape paychecks and opportunities, but they can seem like shifting sand. Fans love an underdog who feels ignored, so Pyfer's complaints could rally support, adding extra eyes when he finally steps back into the cage with a bigger spotlight. Arman Sarukian is convinced Ilia Topuria would be easier to beat than Charles Oliveira, even though Topuria's stock is soaring.
You out, he called Gaethje out. Paddy was the one, though, that walked into the octagon. How did he become the one that got into the octagon, and it wasn't you, the number one contender?
It was the Joe Rogan mistake, and he shouldn't call his even name, bring him to the octagon. I said, this is not sport, this is WWE. They can do it.
Arman recently edged Oliveira by split decision and thinks his wrestling would smother Topuria. He laughs at Bryce Mitchell's earlier bout with Topuria, calling Mitchell the worst fighter at 145 and mocking his kicking like a kid punting a soccer ball. Arman's plan is straightforward: shoot 1,000 takedowns, knowing Topuria won't threaten chokes like Oliveira might. He claims Topuria tired during his first fight that involved any wrestling and predicts he'd shove Topuria right back down the rankings afterward. Arman's blunt trash talk sets up a striker versus wrestler narrative, but it also risks fueling Topuria's motivation. If these two eventually meet, fans will remember every word. And if Arman truly believes Topuria is an easier puzzle, he'll need to prove it emphatically, because doubting an undefeated champion's readiness can flip into a harsh lesson under bright lights. Tom Aspinall, known for his own lightning knockouts, picked Yair Rodriguez's no-look last-second elbow against Korean zombie Chan Sung-jung as the greatest KO in UFC history. Aspinall loves it because nobody had ever seen that angle before. Rodriguez ducked, swung his elbow backward, and landed flush just as the final horn approached. The shot folded zombie-like lawn furniture and left announcers speechless. Aspinall admires creativity in finishes, the kind that pauses time. His choice shines a light on how unexpected techniques become instant legends, inspiring other fighters to think beyond standard jabs and crosses. For younger fans, Aspinall's favorite KO is a reminder that fights aren't only about brute force. Timing and imagination can steal the show. And when a heavyweight champion appreciates featherweight flair, it shows how spectacular moments in MMA cross weight classes and age groups, making everyone gasp together. That shared shock keeps people replaying highlights and dreaming up new moves in gyms worldwide. Ilia Topuria didn't just shrug when TMZ asked about facing Paddy Pimblett. He all but guaranteed a first-round finish. Topuria says the matchup would entertain fans but feels one of the easiest for him at lightweight. He even daydreams about how he might end it. Maybe a triangle choke from Mount, maybe something else just for style points. He jokes he'll put my balls on his forehead after winning, stoking the rivalry with coarse humor that his supporters cheer and his critics cluck at.
Someone from my team told me that Dana was a little bit angry about that.
He said that if he was there, he would not have let that happen.
Yeah, but he wasn't there.
Paddy Pimblett did come in the cage tonight. Y'all had a little fun. But, there's Arman Sarukian, there's Justin Gaethje. Is that the fight that you want more than anything else?
Yes.
Topuria's confidence sounds absolute. He claims he can do whatever he wants with Pimblett and will shine once again in the process. For Pimblett's followers, that's a dare they hope their fighter answers. For neutral fans, it's theater in its purest form. Bold predictions, personal digs and clear stakes. If the UFC pairs them, the hype train will scream down the track, driven by Topuria's promise to finish things before the seat warmers even click on. Daniel Cormier's slip-up about Topuria's family money caught fire online. On his show, Cormier thought Topuria lived rich long before UFC paychecks, comparing him to Arman Sarukian, who once posted luxury bites of caviar on social media. Fans quickly dug up an old interview where Topuria said he juggled 4 jobs: cashier, grappling instructor, beach worker, and weekend security, just to fund competitions. One user called Cormier an actual weirdo for spreading false info. Realizing he'd been duped by a story Chael Sonnen might have told, Cormier owned the mistake publicly and apologized. The incident shows how fast misinformation spreads and how quickly the MMA community fact-checks its own legends. It also reminds everyone that many fighters grind for years in obscurity before big payouts arrive. For Topuria, the mix-up turns into a badge of grit. He isn't a silver spoon athlete. He's a hustler who punched his way to luxury. Arman Sarukian's saga starts with a painful twist in his back and ends with a twist in the narrative. Early this year, he pulled out of a lightweight title fight because a pinched sciatic nerve locked up his lower spine right as he began cutting water weight. He could barely bend, much less smash the scale at championship limit. Months later, Dana White told reporters that Arman had failed to make weight when the shot was his for the taking, painting the contender as careless. Fans piled on, calling him unprofessional, but Arman bit back during a calm sit-down. He asked why nobody talked to the doctor who treated him, then patiently explained the nerve pain that froze his back solid. To prove he's reliable, he showed up as the official backup fighter for UFC 317, hit weight like a pro, and never complained. He knows Dana's words still hover, so he's willing to fight anyone again to erase doubt. In his mind, a single win resets the board, silences the weight cut rumors, and puts him right back at the doorstep of gold. Dustin Poirier, forever honest and always smiling, dropped a bomb that made every fitness-minded fan spit out their drink.
Well, I'm glad I asked that.
Yeah, that's the truth. My wife's like, no, you're not. I'm getting on it.
Sitting with an interviewer, he vowed the next time he steps on a scale, it will not read 155 pounds. Once USADA stops knocking, he joked, he's grabbing a suitcase full of gear, hitting the gym, and turning himself into a jacked, bronzed action figure. He even laughed about skipping the diabetes body and going straight for a beach body thriller, huge shoulders and all. The scene felt casual, like two friends teasing retirement dreams. Yet the promise was blunt. Clean testing days will end, and so will the strict diet. His words lit social media on fire. Some called him refreshing, a legend who earned the right to enjoy life. Others worried fans might think steroids are harmless fun. Dustin shrugged it off, saying he has worked hard for years, and when fighting is over, he wants to lift heavy, eat steaks, and live big. For now, though, he remains tested, weighing chicken breasts, and grinding for every last win. Daniel Cormier, known for unfiltered commentary, waded into the ultimate what-if debate. Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. On a podcast with fellow champs, DC held nothing back. If the fight happened tomorrow, he said, Jon would probably win. His reason was simple enough for any kid in a schoolyard argument. Tom has never felt rounds 4 and 5 when every muscle burns and your brain begs for a break. Jon, on the other hand, lived in those rounds for over a decade, strangling legends, defending belts, and thriving under pressure. DC pictured Aspinall flying through the first 10 minutes, maybe even the first 15, but when the corners dragged stools away for championship rounds, that's the moment experience beats speed. He recalled his own battles, explaining how the first time you stand for round 4 feels like a mountain. Jon knows that mountain. Tom doesn't. Fans argued back, listing Tom's knockout power and youthful reflexes, but DC stayed firm. Until Aspinall survives deep water, the matchup tilts toward Jones, even if nobody will ever see it. Ilia Topuria, fresh off the win that vaulted him to the top of almost every pound-for-pound list, set his sights on Paddy Pimblett and made the challenge sound like a walk in the park. In a candid street interview, he said he could finish Paddy any way he pleased. On the feet, on the ground, from the mount with a triangle choke, or maybe something fancy just for fun. He even tossed in a rude joke about placing his own anatomy on Paddy's forehead, drawing laughs and gasps in equal measure.
Yes, that's the fight that I want. Because with Charles, I had a little bit difficult situation because I really like the guy, you know? He's a really great human being. You can hate him. You always see him surrounded by his family, friends, teammates. He's an amazing human being.
The rivalry isn't new. The two trash-talked for years, trading insults online. Paddy's fans say their hero's slick submissions and relentless pace would surprise Ilia. Topuria rolls his eyes, pointing to his knockout reel and newly minted #1 ranking. He claims Paddy won't make it out of one round. The hype around this possible clash grows each day. To casual viewers, it looks like a classic bully versus showman story, but to hardcore analysts, it's a puzzle of range, grappling chains, and mental warfare. Sarukian refuses to wait quietly while Topuria picks dance partners. On a popular show, he stared into the camera and called out Ilia by name, reminding him who sits at the very top of the lightweight ladder. Arman insisted that if the UFC wants real contenders, they already have one. He labeled both Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje easy money, saying he'd out-wrestle Paddy and drown Gaethje with chain takedowns. Then he shared a direct message to Ilia, "You know it's me next. Stop playing games." Fans love the boldness. He broke down his plan in simple terms: close distance, smash hips to mat, control limbs, and finish. He believes Ilia's hands are sharp, but his wrestling defense is still green compared to someone who grew up in the rough Russian grappling circuit. Arman's confidence sounded almost calm, like someone describing a household chore. The challenge now rests with the matchmakers. Will they risk Ilia's star power against a grappling nightmare, or will they steer Arman toward a different path to prove himself once more? Jorge Masvidal jumped into title talk too, but his angle centered on Islam Makhachev moving to welterweight to face Jack Della Maddalena.
Skill-wise, you can't take nothing from Jones, right? But the thing is that he's hurt, he's been out, and then if you look at his fight with Sarukian, amazing, but I didn't consider Sarukian like a top pound-for-pound guy. And then if you look before that, it was a while before Jon was in there, you know? So due to inactivity, it'd be hard to rank him #1 right now.
Masvidal praised Jack's striking and ability to stuff Belal Muhammad's takedowns, yet leaned toward Islam because, in his words, the champ is a better tactician. Masvidal thinks wrestling IQ wins big fights, and Islam has wrestling IQ in buckets. Around the same time, Arman Sarukian chimed in on a fantasy matchup many fans whisper about: Makhachev versus Topuria at 170 pounds. Arman's verdict? Islam by ground and pound stoppage. He said people forget levels. Ilia just grabbed featherweight glory, but Islam has thrived against bigger, heavier hitters, and his top control feels like quicksand. The twin takes from Masvidal and Sarukian stirred forums into new arguments. Some pointed to Jack's crisp boxing as the equalizer, or Ilia's explosive scrambling as the ace card. Others echoed Jorge's logic: tactic beats tactic, and Islam's plan rarely fails. Every conversation added another layer of intrigue to divisions already buzzing with title shifts. While big-name feuds steal headlines, the UFC calendar keeps spinning, and fresh matchups slip into place like puzzle pieces. Ikram Aliskerov's injury yanked him from UFC 318, so Bruno Fa steps in to battle newcomer Jackson McVeigh. One man hunts a second straight submission win, the other wants a memorable debut. The following month at UFC 319, Jeff Neal and Carlos Prates finally shake hands on a new date after their earlier scrap fizzled. Fans circle that bout because Neal's heavy left hand meets Prates' flashy combos, making a guaranteed brawl. September's card in Paris features Marcin Tybura versus Ante Delia, pitting a seasoned grinder on a mini streak against a fresh face who tasted victory in his first octagon walk. And the special Noche UFC event lines up Rob Font versus Raul Rosas Jr., a veteran jab machine against a teenager piling up wins fast. These under-the-radar fights give rising talents room to burst into highlight reels and help older contenders prove they still belong. Hardcore viewers mark calendars, eager to see who jumps a tier and who stalls out. A familiar figure waved goodbye to the cage and put on boxing gloves instead. Meatball Molly McCann, known for spinning elbow chaos and scouse charm, signed with Matchroom Boxing mere weeks after retiring from MMA. The switch surprised some fans who thought she might coach or commentate, but boxing roots run deep in the UK, and Molly loves a fresh challenge. She says the squared circle lets her focus on punching, her favorite part of training, without worrying about takedowns or elbows. Critics wonder if footwork and ringcraft will come fast enough for her to climb the rankings, yet supporters point to her heart, gas tank, and fearless attitude. Matchroom gained a fan-friendly face who sells tickets with charisma alone. Meanwhile, the women's flyweight roster loses a lively name, but boxing gains a brawler who never minds a bloody nose. For Molly, stepping into a ring under bright lights sounds like a new adventure rather than a retirement hobby, and the story promises sparks as soon as the first bell rings. Belal Muhammad isn't fighting this weekend, but he still made news by predicting a new featherweight monarch. He believes Yair Rodriguez will wear the 145-pound crown within a year. Belal remembers Yair's first clash with Alexander Volkanovski, cut short by an accidental headbutt that left questions hanging. Since then, Yair sharpened his timing and kicks, looking more dangerous each outing. Belal thinks a rematch without weird accidents tips toward the Mexican striker. While offering this vision, he also shut down chatter linking him to Ian Gary next. No phone call from the UFC, he said. Regardless of opponent, he feels one more win locks him into a welterweight title shot. His confidence rests on a long unbeaten string and an ability to adapt styles mid-fight. Fans appreciate his patient chessboard approach, even if it lacks viral knockouts. By forecasting both his own future and Yair's, Belal shows faith in steady growth over flash, trusting the sport to reward consistency when the rankings shuffle again. Bo Nickel, three-time NCAA wrestling champion and undefeated MMA prospect, took an unexpected step by signing with Real American Freestyle, a new grappling league. His first wish? A match with Jon Jones at 230 pounds, halfway between their natural sizes. He calls it friendly competition, no punches, just pure mat skills. Whether Jon accepts is unknown, but the idea lit up wrestling forums. At the same time, a second leaked phone call between Jones and police officers dropped online, piling fresh drama on the heavyweight king. In the recording, Jon swears he wasn't at the scene of a late-night hit-and-run, says a supposed cop on the phone sounded like a thug, and claims a longtime friend, Taylor, left his house drunk and crashed on her own. Moments later, police ring Taylor, who insists Jon was driving, says they both took mushrooms, and accuses him of filming her without permission before an argument about missing clothes spiraled. She says she owns pictures proving he passes out behind the wheel, yet hopes he'll just help fix her car. Fans hear two stories with no clear hero and struggle to decide whom to trust. While the legal dust swirls, Bo Nickel's respectful challenge reminds everyone that sport can also be pure competition, even when the headlines feel like a reality show. With those stories unfolding one after another, a headline bout full of history, revenge quests, hidden tears, knockout debates, ranking frustrations, wrestler-striker face-offs, legendary elbows, bold first-round claims, and a commentator's quick apology. The MMA world proves it never sleeps. Every camp is buzzing, every rivalry brewing, and every fighter knows one viral moment. One perfectly timed strike or one misspoken sentence can set the internet ablaze. So keep your gloves up and your timeline refreshed, because the next twist could drop before the bell even echoes.